I'm thinking I might be a bit of a nerd, guys. You ever get that impression? Yeah, I'm getting that kind of impression right about now. Every now and then. All right, hey everyone, how you doing? Tekking here. Right out of the gate, this is going to be a different kind of video. All right, we're not talking about One Piece or My Hero Academia or One Punch Man or anime or manga in general. Today we're going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons, D&D, which I guess there's a little bit of a crossover between D&D and anime, like Goblin Slayer or whatever. But no. All right, so where to start with this? I wasn't even going to do a video today. I was going to take today off. But, I've had this idea in my head for a while. I do live streams, and I talk about D&D on the live streams every now and then, and I get a lot of people asking me, he's like, hey, you should just make videos about, Dungeons and Dragons and talk about, stuff you do and everything. And, I've thought about doing that for a while. There's always a thing with YouTube, though. It's like, it's really hard when your channel is established as one thing to kind of add something else to the mix. It's like my channel, I talk about anime more directly focused on, like, One Piece. So, if I make another series, that's going to be maybe kind of hard to get off the ground, if it gets off the ground at all, right? So who knows, though? You got to try. You got to give it a shot. So that's what we're going to be doing today. It's an experiment. We'll see where this goes. Who knows? This video might get a crap load of views, and then that's a whole new veranda, a whole new opening for the channel. That's great, right? Okay. So, yeah, today, though, we're just going to talk about a D&D campaign that we had actually last night. Every Sunday, I get together with a group of friends, and we game. We started this in the middle of June, I think, so we've been going for about 4 months now. It's really been great, and I also wanted to thank all my fans, by the way, because I have, stated I've been interested in D&D for a while now. I think, like, last year is when I started really getting into it. I mean, I've been interested in it for a while, but last year is when I started to buy all the books and really starting to learn the rules and everything, and a lot of my fans were really welcoming. They're like, hey, you can game with us, online. There's all these different websites and stuff that allow that, and I thank every single one of you. It's just that, for my first experience with D&D, I wanted it to be, in real life, sitting around that. I had that image in my head of sitting around the table with a group of friends and, doing a campaign and stuff. And I've done that now. We've done a few, actually, and that's a lot of fun. So, yeah, we basically, we get together every Sunday. It's 5 of us. It's me and my friends Rob and Kennedy, who, that's their apartment that we meet at every Sunday. Then there's my friend Kelsey and my friend Frank, who is the DM. And so there's 5 of us together, and we sort of have, like, a main campaign going on right now that we started, like, pretty much from day one. It was kind of a thing where we were, like, planning this for a while, like, oh, when are we going to do that D&D thing? Oh, maybe, we'll get around to it. And then one day we just all show up and we're all there at the same time, and we pretty much just dive right in. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for this, guys, but we go in and it's great. And we still have, like, a main campaign that we're doing right now. We started at all level 1 and everything like that, and we're up to around, I think, level 6 right now. I play a half-elf sorcerer named Adrin in that game. This is not going to be about that campaign, though. Instead, we're going to talk about what we did yesterday, which was a one-off campaign, because I'm sure a lot of people that game, they get together. You probably realize this, that a lot of times you can't get everybody together at once, and so it's good to have, like, backup plans for that, and so that's what we have. Sometimes I couldn't show up, and they had, like, a one-shot they did without me, and, like, it's sort of like whoever doesn't show up, it's like we have something waiting in the background that we can do, and Frank is a really good DM, so he can kind of adjust to anything right there, so it's very handy to have that sort of stuff. So I guess, I've only been doing this for about 4 months, so I don't know if I'm in the position to give advice or anything, but yeah, maybe don't just, create one character for one particular game. At least have an idea, if you are going to do a one-off or something else, what other characters would you like to play? I had an idea that I wanted to play a Dragonborn for a while, because Dragonborns are freaking awesome. It's like, look at the, oh my god, I turned it off to perfect page flip. All right, look at that. Look at that. Why wouldn't you want to be a Dragonborn, right? So I was like, man, Dragonborns are pretty sweet. So maybe one campaign I'll do that. So it's maybe a good idea to have multiple character sheets, like, ready to go in case somebody can't make it, and is like, you still want a game, you do something else, and you have a character ready to go. So in this one-off campaign that we're doing, we're all level 17, which is fantastic. It's just like, yeah, let's just have fun with this, guys. It's very handy. I love D&D being so malleable like that, where it's just like, yeah, all this really cool stuff, all these cool spells you can cast at higher levels. It's going to take forever to get there in the actual campaign that we're playing, where we start at level 1. It's fun to just every once in a while, just like, yeah, you know what? We're just all level 17. Let's just go into it. We're going to take on some, like, actual serious threats that could, like, end the world, right? And we have powers that could potentially end the world. You know, that's kind of fun there. And it's Halloween, it's October, so Frank is kind of devising this really neat, you know, spooky campaign for us, or rather he's attempting to make it spooky. We goof off a lot, so, you know, sorry, Frank. You know, I can imagine sometimes it's like, let's do this really seriously, and here's a good example of this. So Kennedy's character, I forget what race she's playing, but she's a monk, okay, level 17 monk, which, some stuff to talk about that, but she has a magical item, which, not unusual, you know, he's like, oh yeah, you get some magical items, you're all level 17, I figure you would have some magical items, but her magical item is a talking bra that talks in a very raspy cigarette, like, hey, how you doing there, you know, so I can't do it well, I can't do the voice, it's either Frank or Rob that usually do the voice, and they do it really well, but yeah, so when you have that, it's sort of like, it's a good campaign, it's really fun, but it's just like, we goof off a lot, but it's a lot of fun. Okay, with that in mind, setting the tone, in this campaign, I play a Dragonborn wizard. I'm a silver Dragonborn, so I have, like, ice powers and shit. Frank's DM. Rob plays a bard. Rob almost always plays a bard. His personality, very bard-like, and it fits perfectly. Then you have Kennedy, who's playing a monk. Kennedy almost always plays a fighter. She was a fighter in our main campaign. She's a monk here. I think she's the only one of us that has never played a spellcasting class, like, ever. I think I even brought that up last night. It's like, you never go spellcaster. And it's, you know, when I started getting into D&D, I didn't know how many spellcasting classes there even were. Like, I figured, okay, wizard, I know cleric, paladin, they can cast spells. I didn't even know the sorcerer and warlock classes existed until I started reading up, and then I found out, like, oh, rogues and rangers, they can cast spells too, like, limited, you know, not the same as, like, you know, wizards and everything, but they can still cast spells. So there's a lot of classes that can cast spells in D&D, but she almost always plays either she just goes straight fighter, or last night she was a monk. And, you know, monks, though, at high level, I mean, they have, like, key shit, so, you know, it's like, she has this ability, like, I think it's called Sun Shield, where she can just create, like, this glowing aura of protection around her, and she can just turn that on and off whenever she wants at her level. She's got, you know, like, her skin's like diamond essentially, and just, like, beat people up with her bare hands. She has, like, different key attacks, which we were just calling it, like, you know, you should Kamehameha people. I mean, it's not exactly, but it is, you know, so there's that. We were also trying to calculate this out last night. This was really funny, because there's something that in her thing, like, she can move really fast. You can run, like, wicked fast. And so we're calculating this out, and it says, like, she can move this fast, like, she can move 30 feet in this many seconds or whatever. And so we broke it down, and we basically figured out that if she can run at, like, 72 miles an hour or something ridiculously fast like that, just boom. And we were talking about that and just being like, oh, okay, so, you know, she's like, all right, so if I can run that fast, I'm like, you're freaking Cheetara from Thundercats, you could just, like, run up to somebody and just punch them really hard. He's like, well, you know, you can't run and attack at the same time. He's like, well, you don't even need to do that. You could just, like, run and just boom, and just slam into them, because your skin is like freaking diamond, because you're a level 17 freaking monk, you know? So, you know, she's playing that character. I can't remember I can't remember the race, but I know it's a monk, and her name was Onyx. Rob's character, he's a bard, and his name was Chad with 2 D's. And then our friend Kelsey, who couldn't make it last night. And then her original character for this one shot was named Robin, which, okay, I made a one. I'm the guy at the table that tries to connect everything back to anime at some point, and, you know, like, there was one part we're gonna get to this. There was a lot of Naruto references last night thrown around at the table, so, yeah, I have to make myself useful in that regard at some point. But then my character named Thorin is a Dragonborn wizard. Okay, so the general premise for this adventure is that we're all retired adventurers, and we're coming together for, like, one last thing that's going down, and we all get called to this creepy, spooky castle out in the middle of a creepy, spooky forest along a creepy, spooky road. So we show up at this castle, the storm's about to brew, and, you know, very, very spooky horror movie, you know, 1920s, like, Universal, I guess that'd be 1930s Universal, like, imagery here, all right? So I'm loving that. Of course, when Rob's character shows up, he's the bard. There's, like, his stats are insane, because pretty much, like, he can get well into, like, the 30s. It's like, roll me a perception check. Okay. 36. I'm like, okay, you are very perceptive, sir. So he's walking into the castle. He looks up at one of the, like, the windows and one of the high, you know, pillars, the towers or whatever, and there's, like, just these red eyes just staring at you. He was going to be, like, the big bad of this campaign. And he's looking at him, and Chad, of course, is just like, just winks at him. Frank is like, okay, rolling some dice, and he's like, what would he... Okay, so he throws a fireball at you, and is like in the ground, and so everyone's like, okay, get in the castle. So yeah, that's the tone there. Like, all right, so we get in the castle, and we have like a little meet and greet. We all get together and whatever, and the master of this manor appears. And he essentially lays it out for us, like, yeah, you're trapped in this castle until you have to get through these rooms, and then it's very ambiguous exactly how we get out. But he's like, you're trapped here, and you're gonna have to face some challenges to get out. Like, it's a one shot, so it's basically like, let's just do this. Let's just get right to it, okay? So anyway, I'm imagining, by the way, I have a theory that he's a Death Knight. I'm not sure yet, though, but I'm thinking Death Knight. But anyway, so he just leaves us in the castle. We can't get out. You try to get out, it's just like this spell crappery where you try to go out the door and it just repeats and loops constantly. So it's like you can't get out of the castle. So it's like, all right, so now we gotta start going through doors in the castle, and that's really where all this whole campaign really coalesces. It's like, we got a long hallway, doors, open the door, and there's a different realm of horror in every single door. Some of it is actual, like, just monsters from the monster manual. Other stuff is just Frank, taking references from other horror movies and, pop culture, which I love, and just throwing it all together and just like, have fun, guys. So, all right. So we all go down here. And, oh, by the way, I should tell you a little bit about my character here. So my character, I created this guy. Like, I had a good idea. I wanted to be a Dragonborn. I still wanted to be a spellcaster because I'm a sorcerer in the other game. And I love being able to cast, like, 9th level crap. So it's like, all right, so definitely wizard, definitely Dragonborn. The personality I gave my character, so I'm a diviner. I'm in the school of divining, so I can like kind of see the future, sort of. And so my character, practicing wizardry and stuff, at one point I get a glimpse at the end of the world, and so I become kind of like, not insane, but I become kind of crazy and obsessed with the end of the world. So I become a hermit dragonborn living out in the middle of the woods in a random log cabin, and it's just covered with like the red twine, and it's like everything I have is like, I'm obsessed with the end of the world coming, so it's like everything has to connect back to it. Everything. I'm very paranoid, I'm very obsessive with everything with this. It's like I open up my door, in the middle of this, the woods one day, and I can see a squirrel, and the squirrel's like collecting his nuts for winter, and I'm like, that squirrel has something to do with the world ending, man. I go back and I'm like, all right, I'm checking the chart here. I'm like, that okay, I don't know how this squirrel's gonna connect back to Ragnarok, but it's connecting back somehow. I need to figure out what's up with that squirrel and his nuts. All right, so I'm that kind of guy, right? And so of course we all get summoned to this castle, and I'm thinking, this is it. This is the end times, man. We're gonna show up, and this is the end of the world. So at the same time, though, I'm very noble, I guess, in the quest of like, okay, well, I have to try to stop it as best as I can. I'll probably fail because it's the end of days, but I have to try, right? It's like, it's futile, but I have to at least attempt it, right? So I think I believe I'm neutral good. I put down my alignment. So anyway, yeah, we start going through these doors, okay? And so with that in mind, what I just said, I open the first door. And it's just like, okay, Frank's like, all right, you got like 3 doors on this side, 3 doors on this side. Where are you going? One door on the end. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, all right, well, it's got to get kicked off somehow, So, all right, I say I will open the first door to see where we're going here. I open the first door. It's, I believe, a child's room. Okay, so already pretty creepy for a creepy castle. Creepy child's room. In the corner, there is a little kid playing with a jack-in-the-box. Facing the wall, like just in the corner of this room, just Now, I'm not a fan of the creepy kid trope in a lot of horror movies, so my first reaction to that is, oh hell no, and just shut the door immediately. And then I think I take some ink or whatever I have, some paint out of my pack, and I just, spooky child, don't open, like mark the door. All right. Rob opens the next door. It's a snake room. It's filled with snakes. We both go in there. We fight off snakes. I get bit in the chest by a freaking viper. I save against getting poisoned. Next room. Kennedy gets sucked in by chains. We just open the door, and then chains just come out and just grab you and just pull you in. And she ends up getting in a fight with this giant ogre. It's like a Coliseum room. There's an ogre there just swinging like a giant club around. And she's chained up. We go in there. She breaks one of the chains. We beat down the ogre. We beat the crap out of that thing, okay? All right, so next room. there was one room that was covered with nothing but bugs, but it wasn't like a that was later, but it wasn't anything dangerous. It was like there was like a group of bugs that coalesced together as sort of like a hive mind, and was just like, you know, it's like, we have been trapped here. And we learned from this thing that the guy that trapped us in this castle, he's like a collector of sorts. He collects crazed, you know, creatures and oddities from all over the, you know, the plains and everything, and just collects them here in his castle from all over the place, right? So that's why it's like sort of like Cabin in the Woods, which I'm sure is probably part of the reference that Frank took from that. I don't know if he's ever seen that movie, but I feel like he probably has. So yeah, Cabin in the Woods probably definitely a reference here. And going along with Cabin in the Woods, another room that we open includes Pinhead from the Hellraiser series. Now this was great. This was great because I've seen Hellraiser. Frank has obviously seen Hellraiser. Rob and Kennedy have not. Okay, so we opened this room, and at first even I wasn't sure where this was going to go, but we opened this door to this room, empty room, nothing in this room except for a cube lying on the center of the floor, just in the center of the room, just a regular, just old, shiny little cube. And so Rob's character, Chad, did it, picks it up, starts fiddling with it, and I have a moment where I'm like, wait, no. And so this is great. Rob solves it. Hooks come out of the ground, and if you've ever seen Hellraiser, you know 100% where this is going. Freaking hooks come out of the ground. Pinhead appears out of nowhere and does his typical spiel of like the pleasures of the flesh, you know, all that crap. That Xenobite crap he does, right? And at least watch the first one. Like, the series does get kind of ridiculous at a certain point. I believe Pinhead, I haven't even seen all of them, but I believe Pinhead goes into space at some point. There's another one where he gets like sucked into the internet like it's Matrix Hellraiser. I don't know about any of that, but at least watch the first one. Kind of slow going a little bit in places. I think the Xenobites themselves don't really even appear until much later in the movie, but still, really good film. All right. Like, in terms of, like, 80s horror, really, really, like, iconic one, okay? So, yeah, check out Hellraiser. Anyway, so Pinhead pops out, right? And you know what Pinhead looks like. He's horrifying. Like, there's no way you would look at this guy and say, oh, yeah, nice guy. Yeah, I'm sure he's gonna help us out. So, and also, you know, a little bit of meta-knowledge here, because I actually know who exactly this thing is. You know, who this guy is. Rob, of course, starts to talk to him, because, you know, he's the bard, very charismatic, and he talks to everybody. You know, it's just like, you walk into a room and a giant creature made of nothing but tentacles is ready and poised to attack you. Rob is the bard that would just go up and be like, hey, how you doing tonight? You know, that's how he does crap, all right? So, I don't even let him get a word out in edgewise. I have a spell. I was looking through it. I don't have it right there. It's a Xanathar spell. It's Ortiluk's Resilient Sphere. I was looking at it, and I was thinking, all right, it's basically, it's like, we made references to Steven Universe whenever we used it. I bubble you, essentially. It's like, I create a sphere. I can either create it around myself as like this shield, and it's very specific. It's a 4th level spell. It's very specific in there that says like nothing passes through this thing. Nothing. You know, you can't. Nothing can attack you. You can't attack it while you're in the sphere. Spell effects, even ones that are currently active, cannot breach this sphere. It's like a perfectly bound sphere. So I'm thinking, okay, it can either trap something in it or it can protect me. So I bubble Pinhead. It just like boink. Block Pinhead. Pinhead's in the freaking sphere like, this is not very pleasurable, you know, and I'm like, oh, you're just staying in there. He's not going, you can still talk back and forth, you know, you can still breathe while you're in the sphere, but it's just like, you can't do anything after it, you can't, you know, do any spells or anything after that, right? So, we talked to Pinhead in the bubble a little bit. He also doesn't know who the person is that trapped in there or whatever, and basically that encounter ends with me kicking the hamster ball filled with freaking Pinhead down the hallway into a closet. So that's basically how that encounter ends, and that sphere, it disappears after a minute, I believe. So in combat, it's actually really good, and later on, I actually did use it in combat. We'll get to that near the end of the story, like the final encounter we had last night. This one shot was broken up in between 2 days, by the way. But anyway, yeah. That was like, Pinhead's encounter was like our last encounter of the first night. And this was the second night we had last night. That is, Kelsey couldn't be there for it. So anyway, yeah, I'm feeling like I'm probably gonna that's not the last we're gonna see of old Pinhead. I feel like he's probably going to come back at some point, and I think I'm going to be on his platter of delights. I just have a feeling after that bubble disappears, he's going to have it out for me. But for right now, he's gone for now. All right. So after that room, we encounter a room filled with phase spiders, which I believe they're not in Volas. They're in the monster manual, I think. Phase spiders, really cool, just looking creatures. See, I really like spiders in general. So phase spiders, as the name implies, are spiders that can phase in and out of the ethereal plane, which make them really annoying bastards to hit, because I think yeah, here they are. Look at this. Phase spider. Now, awesome, like blue and silver, like blue and white, pretty damn cool design. Yeah, as a bonus action, ethereal jaunt. That's an interesting name for it. Ethereal, I'm just going for a jaunt into the ethereal plane. I'll be right back. It's applicable here. It's just interesting. As a bonus action, these spiders can magically shift from the material plane to the ethereal plane or vice versa. All right, so they're only challenge 3. There were 5 of them. But, you know, Kennedy's character stays in the hallway while we go and do this, and we just kind of, me and Rob walk into this room, and these spiders phase in and out, and they actually get a few solid hits out on us. They have a paralyzing bite as well, and yeah, on a failed save, the target is stable but poisoned for 1 hour, even after regaining hit points. So, Rob's character, Chad, gets bitten by one of these things, and, you know, he gets pretty rigid for a while. So he gets rigid, and we clear out the rest of them. I use a fireball. I don't think we killed all of them, but we came back later and took them out. But, like, most of them were, you know, taken out there. I think we killed, like, 3. This is something I found out later, and this is something else, I guess, a piece of advice I would recommend. You know, especially if you're coming up with a character more on the fly, you know, because my main character in the other campaign, you know, he's a sorcerer, and I've been really good with, like, his sorcery points and all the stuff I can do with him. This character, not so much. So it's like, at level 17 especially, they're going to be able to do a lot of stuff. And there was one thing in particular wizards can do, at least diviners can, because if you're with the School of Divination, you have a thing called the Third Eye, where you can use an action, and you can either see invisible creatures, you can, what is all the things you can do here? You get dark vision, see invisibility, greater comprehension, which allows you to read any language, or, this would have been handy to remember when we were fighting against the goddamn phase spiders, ethereal sight! You can see into the ethereal plane within 60 feet of you. Now, I realized this after this encounter, and you know, being able to see into the plane doesn't mean I'll be able to attack them. I still can't hit them while they're in the ethereal plane. But still, these freaking spiders were bouncing up and around, and I think Frank also buffed the stats a little bit on them, just so they were more of a challenge. So we couldn't just, like, step on them and call it a day. I think he buffed the stats a little bit there to make them challenging. But these things were bouncing all over this freaking room. They were showing up behind us, latching onto our backs, biting us like freaking vampire spiders. So, you know, not a fun encounter. So Rob gets rigid after this, and I throw a fireball, and I just shut the door, all right? And so at this point, I get to bust out a spell that I've been wanting to use for a while. At this point, there's a spell, it's like one of the first spells when I was looking through the books like a year ago when I first started looking at everything. I'm a big fan of pocket dimensions. I'm a big fan of, like, I just love when that concept is used in anime all the time. And there's a 7th level spell called Morgenkainen's Magnificent Mansion, where you literally just, at any time you want, I mean, you got to do the setups and the components and everything, you got to set things up, it takes like a minute, but you can create a magical doorway, and you open it, and you go into a huge, luxuriant mansion. And you can stay in this mansion for up to 24 hours. And the mansion has fully staffed servants. There's like 100 servants. You could have, like, I had a breakfast nook in mine. You know, you could have a library, you could have a pool, whatever. You can design the floor plan. I'm a dragonborn, so all my servants are just dragons, you know, walking around and stuff. And so there's some kobolds in there and stuff. So we just have this magical mansion we can just enter at any time. And that proved very useful. So we all go in there and we chill out for a while. Rob's paralysis wears off. We all heal up. We get a long rest. And so I'm like, okay, I was just happy to use the damn spell. Because this was the thing, like, sorcerers can't learn it. So I'm like, all right, I'm a sorcerer in the main campaign, can't do this, so screw it. If I'm going to be a 17th level anything in this campaign, I'm being a wizard, and I'm just for the sole purpose of casting this. I was very, very happy last night. All right, so we have the magical mansion area. Okay, we live in there, we do the long rest or whatever, we plan it. Like, all right, so it made a very handy checkpoint. It made a very convenient safe. I mean, it's a 7th level spell. It's up there, but very convenient safe zone whenever you need it. And I know there's other spells like this. You know, there's a one, I think that's like a 2nd level spell or so called Rope Trick, where you just create like a rope and you climb up the rope and you go into like a little space. And it's not a very big space. It might even be smaller than this room. But you just chill out in that little space and then you can heal up there. Rob in not this campaign, but the other one also plays a bard in that one. He has a spell like a tiny little hut. It creates like a tiny little hut where you can just go in and just, you know, chill out in there. But I love this one the best because it creates a mansion, this huge space. It's like freaking Nove from Hunter x Hunter with his hide and seek ability. He creates like an apartment building he could just enter at any time, right? It's kind of like that. We do that. We take some time. We take, you know, we do whatever. We heal up. We take a break. We come back to it. This is where shit starts to fly off the wall. All right. We walk out of this magnificent mansion, and as soon as we open the door, the creepy kid from earlier. Frank didn't forget about him. I just like, oh hell no, and I shut the door. But creepy kid is like, no, we're still doing this. Creepy kid from earlier is standing right in front of us, playing with the Jack in the Box. And it's like, all right, what do we do? Because it's for all intents and purposes, little kid. We all roll perception. And essentially when the Jack in the Box goes off, me and Kennedy, we pass this perception roll. We see tentacles come out of it and just grab Rob and drag him down. Rob, on the other hand, sees giant clowns, like demonic clowns, jump out of the Jack in the Box and like grab him and pull him down the hallway. I'm a Dragonborn, so I got, you know, my strength is better than what you would figure for a wizard, but not the best. So I try to hold him back. I get dragged along with him. We eventually force this kid back into the room. We follow it into the room, and then this is where this fight is on, all right? And this fight gets crazy. Basically what this creature is, and I asked Frank about it, because I was looking through the monster manual. I was trying to find, like, if this was a creature that was in the manuals. He also used this one, Mordenkainen's Tomb of Foes, which is also a really good book here. And so I was trying to figure out, like, which monster this was, and Frank is like, nah, I just created this creature, you know? There's the references a lot from It, because of the clowns, but also from the deadlights from It. So there was references there. This being is broken into 3 different orbs. And depending or not, if you pass the perception, if you could see through the illusion, it creates illusions. There's a fragment of it, one part of it that represents like a childlike innocence. So that's the child. There's another fragment of it, an orb that represents the intelligence, the mind that actually makes the decisions. And then there's another fragment of it that's like a dark orb that represents just all hatred for living things. And so that's what this creature is. So we're in this room, and we're, you know, I can still see it as a child, but this child is like, you know, grappling with a level 17 monk. And then there's tentacles and crap in the room and stuff. Okay, so it's like hell in this room, essentially, right? We're all fighting these things, right? So Kennedy's character tries to beat this kid down, and does not do very well with the rolls. Just not very lucky rolls. The kid throws off a level 17 monk and just throws her 5 feet across the room. And at this point, I've had enough. I tried to get a few shots out on this kid, because this kid is so creepy. And like I said, I really hate that trope. I hate it in movies when it's like people move into a house and it's like they see a creepy kid in the hallway that's like, I have an imaginary friend and he doesn't like you very much. And then you like turn around and turn back and the kid's like gone. It's like, oh hell no, you know, whatever. So, you know, I bust out a few spells on this kid. Some of them hit, some of them don't. But, you know, at some point, I'm looking, I have a stack of spells here, guys, all right? And it's a one-off. So I'm looking through my stack of spells here and I'm like, oh, Cone of Cold, Fireball, that might cause a lot, because we're in a room, that's like Fireball, area of effect, so I don't want to set my friends on fire here, so, like, you know, Cone of Cold also might get, you know, thrown up in it, I have a lot of area of effect spells, so, I get to it, and I'm just like, alright, after, this thing throws off Kennedy's character, I point at it and just like, be gone with you! Be gone, demon! And I cast Disintegrate. All right, so, and for some reason, my friends wouldn't let it live it down that I decided to disintegrate a small child. I'm like, it's not a small child. It's like, well, you think it is. It looks like a child to you. I'm like, come on now. You go into the creepy castle in the creepy forest. You go in the creepy room with the creepy kid. Why would I think that? Oh, that probably just a normal child, just a normal kid. Come on, kid, let's go. I'm like, no, this kid is, and plus, you know, just going along with my character, very paranoid, dragonborn, obsessed with the end of the world. I would definitely think this kid is a demon or some shit, you know, right? Like, I definitely would. So I'm just like, disintegrate doesn't have area of effect. You just point at the thing you want to disintegrate. It makes a saving throw. If it fails, it takes a boatload of damage. You know, it's like 10d6s plus 40 or something. Hold on, I had the card here. I don't know where it went, but I have it in here. It's a lot of damage. Here it is, disintegrate. Yeah, it's 10d6 plus 40 force damage. Force damage, mind you. Like, I take a hammer and I hit every one of this thing's atoms, you know? Alright, so it fails. It fails the save. So I think I did like 82 damage to this thing. It was a lot of damage. And the basic idea was that all three of these different aspects of this creature were all connected with this like line, this invisible line of light. So, and Frank, by the way, was very descriptive whenever I'm like, be gone, and I do the Thanos snap, and he's like, oh, and the kid looks at me like, what? And then I'm like, no, you do not belong in this plane of existence. Be gone with you. So I disintegrate something that resembles a small child, mind you. And the excess damage, whatever hit points this thing had left from that part of it, go into the intelligence part, and that gets weakened. And then Rob and Kennedy, I think, take down the other parts of these other fragments of this creature, right? And so that's how that goes down. Yeah. So that happens, and, you know, he's like, we disintegrated a child. I'm like, I didn't disintegrate. Whatever. All right, so we leave. And we take another break at this point. Frank tries to drum up like another big encounter for us here. And after we come back, he's cooked up something. And this was the final encounter of the night. And this, and you know, in every battle that we've encountered in D&D, I know this is level 17, so this is higher stakes here, but this was the most intense fight I think we've ever had. And it was a really crazy fight, because all of us got to be useful here in this fight, really utilized all of our individual skills here. Really, really great fight. Awesome fight. So, the last room in this hallway that we go into, I believe it was the last room. I think we took out everything else. We go in the last room here, and we go down a spiral staircase. And we go down like 6 floors down this spiral staircase, and we're basically just in like a giant like arena room kind of place. And in the distance, we can see it coming toward us. This huge creature made of like shifting shadows just approaching us from a distance. It's like 300, feet away, and it's coming for us. And so, Frank, by the way, while he's doing this, is just like, he gives us this grin of just like, yeah, you guys are probably gonna die here. Yeah. So he's given us time to prepare, because this thing, I think its speed was like 40 feet per round, 300 feet away, and it moved double a few times, but it's coming for us. So we have a few chances. Now, I don't think Rob or Kennedy had any spells. Well, Kennedy didn't, but she didn't have any of her key things that could shoot that far away. By the way, she has that sun armor thing, which illuminated the area a little bit here, so we didn't turn on dark vision or anything. It's just like illuminated area. So this thing is coming for us. I'm looking through all of my spells, and I'm just like, okay, is there anything I have that can hit this thing? I have one spell that can actually hit this thing from that far away, and it's Ice Storm. 4th level spell creates a cylinder of just like a blizzard, and then just anything inside of the cylinder, like I think it's like 20 feet, by 40, and just gets attacked by hail, and it gets turned to like a frozen terrain, okay? So I start just casting that thing at this shadow creature that's coming at us, and I'm hitting it, but it's still coming. And in fact, even after I make the ground ice in difficult terrain, it can still fly toward us. So I'm like, oh crap, it's coming. So every round, this thing's getting closer and closer. And I'm looking through everything that I got here to actually try to hit it. And we get to the point where it's close enough that it can actually start doing damage to us. It uses, and I'll show you what it is here. It's not in that. It's in Morgenkainen's here. All right, so it gets close enough. So it's a Nightwalker, which is not good. A Nightwalker challenge rating 20. You know, for 3 level 17. I mean, this okay. I'll just okay. So this thing, it has an attack called Finger of Doom. So it does Finger of Doom, and you have to make a saving throw where you become frightened, and it also paralyzes you until the end of its next turn, or until the end of your next turn. Rob gets hit with the Finger of Doom, I believe twice, and gets paralyzed. But it doesn't last as long as the thing with the face spider, thankfully. You know, so it doesn't get paralyzed for a whole hour. You know, because we don't have any way of reversing that. This thing is also immune to a crap ton of damage. Acid, cold, fire, lightning, thunder, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, non-magical attacks, slashing. It's immune to necrotic and poison. You can't be exhausted or frightened, grappled, paralyzed, petrified. I tried that at one point because I have prismatic spray, another 7th level spell, and I was thinking maybe, because I really wanted to use Prismatic Spray, because I love that spell. But, you know, I'm looking at it, and Prismatic Spray mostly deals out elemental damage. It's basically like you target a creature, you roll a d8, and you know, whatever it does. And it can be, you know, fire, acid, lightning, poison, cold damage, or if it's the indigo ray, it turns it to stone, but that's not going to be any use against this thing. The target is blinded, which I don't think it's not resistant to blind. And it's possibly banished to another plane, but that's like, I basically have a 2 in 7 shot here that this is actually going to do something useful, so I can't use Prismatic Spray. It can still be damaged by, like, acid and cold and, like, elemental damage, but it takes a resistance. It takes half damage to that. So that would explain when I'm throwing the Ice Storm cold shit at it, it's not really, it's getting damaged, but it's not, this thing is, like, almost 300 hit points, right? So it's coming at us, and we all throw stuff at it. Kennedy busts out her Kamehameha crap against this thing, which is radiant damage, which I don't think it's resistant. No, it's not resistant to radiant, so it's taking damage from that. Rob is Eldritch blasting the crap out of this thing, and meanwhile, I'm trying to use Disintegrate, because there was this moment where we're looking at everything that it's immune to and resistant to. Force damage is not on that list, so I'm like, oh, and they're like, yeah. So if I hit one solid Disintegrate, it's going to take full damage. It could actually deal a tremendous amount of damage to this thing. And especially because I already used Disintegrate at a 6th level slot. So I don't want to use it as the 7th, because that's the mansion. So I'm figuring after this, we're going to need a place to chill and rest and take a long rest. So I can't use the 7th. So I'm like, I first use it as an 8th level. It saves. So nothing happens. And then next round, I use Disintegrate at a 9th level, which would have done an absurd amount of damage. It saves on that too. And I'm like, crap, I burned out a 6th, an 8th, and a 9th level slot. I have one of the 7th, I have a 7th level left, but I can't use Prismatic Spray, and I really don't want to waste it anyway, because I want to save the mansion for after the battle. So I'm like, alright, crap, okay. So, it also has an aura. As long as it's close to you, you have to save, and if you don't save, you take 14 damage. Oh, yeah, there's another thing, yeah, in Innovating Focus. This is a spell that does damage, but also reduces your max hit points. So I get my max hit points reduced by that. So I'm not looking too good. I'm down on spell slots, you know, all the major, the higher spell slots here. And Rob takes a lot of damage too. I think he gets knocked down pretty low in this fight. You know, he doesn't, I don't think he has to do, like, I don't think he gets to the point where he's below 0, but he gets down really low at a certain point here. And at one point I even use the magical barrier again to get, like, inside and protect us, and, like, he uses mass cure wounds and heals us up, right, while Kennedy's blasting this thing. But yeah, Kennedy really came in, like, the latter half of this fight, just started bashing this thing, but the thing that really just turned the tides here, and a thing that we stopped the whole fight for to try to figure out how OP this thing was, because it was very OP, was a spell from Xanathar's called Mental Prison. Anybody that's used it probably know how broken this thing is, because I don't know if we were using it wrong or whatever, but this thing was incredibly broken. And this is the thing I compared to, like, a Genjutsu from Naruto or something, alright? Mental Prison from Xanathar's here. All right, it's basically, it traps one creature in, like, a genjutsu prison made of fire or made of teeth or made of metal, whatever you want it to be. It's in this illusionary space, right? And it takes, if it succeeds in the save, it takes 5d10 psychic damage. Oh! Wait, no, oh, wait. No, that's not what happened. Okay, I was thinking, did we do it wrong? Because if it succeeds, it takes 5d and then it immediately fails. But it failed. Yeah, it definitely failed. So it takes 5d psychic, 5d10 psychic, and then it creates a barrier around this thing where it's blinded and it can't see beyond the area, and if it tries to move beyond this barrier, it takes an additional 10d10 psychic. Psychic damage, also, this thing does not have resistance to. Psychic and Force, I think, and Radiant, I think are the only things that can hurt this thing. So, we all thought that was like, even we, the players, when we did that, and we were actually, like, Rob casted it, and we're looking at everything, it's like, man. And this lasts up to a minute, too. Concentration for a minute. So this thing is essentially, if it fails the save, it is locked in its tracks for an entire minute, cannot move without taking a ridiculous amount of damage. And eventually, after we're looking at it, we're trying to figure out, like, you know, it's like, this is kind of a really broken spell. Eventually, the Nightwalker just moves out of the barrier, takes the 10d10 psychic, and it drops it gets its hit points below 100 at that point. And that's when Kennedy starts slamming it with her radiant attacks and everything, and she can make multiple attacks. And then I'm looking at everything I can do here, because I'm out of my major spell slots, and the kicker from this whole encounter, the kicker, I get the final shot out on this thing. I'm the one that kills this thing. And I'm looking through all my spells and everything that I could possibly use here that it wouldn't be resistant to. And I'm like, well, I'm looking at one spell here. I'm not showing everybody else. I'm just kind of having a moment where I'm trying to assess if I should use this. I'm like, well, and Frank's like, you're going to use goddamn Magic Missile on this thing, aren't you? I'm like, So I'm going to cast Magic Missile at a 5th level spell here, which I think is like 7d or 5d4s plus 5 or whatever. And at this point, Kennedy got its and Rob, you know, because of the mental prison, it got its HP down to like 30 or 40. So I cast 5th level Magic Missile, which is force damage, but it's like a 1st level spell. So I didn't even consider it up until this point where I had nothing else. So I cast it, and it dies. So, yeah. that was that. And that's pretty much where we stopped there. But yeah, that was the encounter. And I think we were looking at it like, yeah, that spell is really kind of broken, and we all agreed that it kind of was. So I'm not sure if we're going to use that anymore. But let me know if you've ever used that spell before, the Mental Prisoner. There's a few spells in this book, in Xanathar's, that are a little bit more broken, and we were going down the list of a few of them. I think, Toll the Dead is something Frank says. Like, Toll the Dead is a cantrip, and it's like a really OP one as well. But let me know what you thought about this. I'm not sure if this was something that you enjoyed. I know every now and then people message me and it's like, Tekking, I just like listening to your voice in the background while I try to sleep or I try to drive to work or whatever. So this is a very handy video for you. And I thought about putting this up on the vlog channel, but I thought, you know what, let me see, I'll put it up on the main channel. If it gets a really good amount of views, we could do this as a regular thing. If it doesn't get that many, maybe we could keep it as a regular series. Maybe I'll push it to the vlog channel. But I wanted to give it a shot. Why not? We'll see where it goes. Pilot episodes. So that was that. Hope you enjoyed. And we'll probably get back into this campaign maybe at some point, and I'll let you guys know what the end result of that was. But, yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking signing out.